Hello, student. We are here to discuss the PT 365 environment subject focusing the UPSC 2026 prelims. So let's get it started. We'll be here discussing the organizations which have been in the news currently and they are most important for our prelims examination. The first body is CITES, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The name itself make it the more visible the aim and objective of this organization, that is the conventions which mainly regulates the trade of endangered species, especially the faunas and floras. Headquarter is in Geneva, Switzerland, becomes an important information. The aim of this organization is voluntarily international agreement which is between the governments ensuring international trade in wild animals and plants, which does not threaten their survival. It is a legally binding agreement. That means it is applicable legally and enforced legally, mandated part of the provision of this organization, the which puts the parties that it does not take place of national laws. That is, the provision is legally binding on the parties, but it does not take place of the national laws. It cannot supersede the national laws, but it can be made in supplementary and complementary to each other. Formed or drafted in 1963 following an IUCN resolution, which is came into force in 1975. Currently, it has 185 parties, which includes India. India ratified this organization in 1976. So, till here, the main information which is to be noted about this organization is that it aims for voluntarily international agreement between the governments. So, this becomes an intergovernmental body which ensures the international trade in wild animals and plants. Headquarters being at Geneva, Switzerland, and it is a legally binding agreements, but it does not supersede over the national laws. Drafted in 1963 and which came into force in 1975. Because this becomes an information important informations, because in previous PYQs we get to know that there has been data related questions, or where there have been the options which mentioned the date of its establishment. So date is also becomes an important information for us. India is a part of this organization and it has ratified in 1976. There has been a conference of parties held based on this organizations, and this has been the conference of parties has been the highest decision making body, which is like in New Delhi there was held in COP 3 in 1981, the conference of parties about this organization. It has the three appendixes. Appendix 1, which constitute the species threatened with extinction, which required a grave solutions because this has been in the urge of extinction, in which trade permitted only exceptional cases. Here the trade is regulated in very harsh and in very important or exceptional cases. Appendix 2, it does not necessarily threatened with extinction, but trade must be controlled. In Appendix 1, trade is only done in an exceptional basis, but in Appendix 2, trade can be done, but it should be in controlled manner. And a species in Appendix 1 is not necessarily that they are threatened for the extinction. Appendix 3 is about protected in at least one country. The species which are protected at least in one country. This has been inducted in the Appendix 3, which has asked for sites parties for assistance in controlling the trade. The key initiatives of sites is like mic program, which has been uh, formed to monitor the illegal killings of elephant. So this is an important information because it has been already asked in the previous year question. So mic program is related to monitoring the illegal killings of elephants. The other initiatives like sites tree species program, International Consortium on Combating Wildlife Crimes 2010. It published the reports named World Wildlife Trade Report. This is all information we need to know about the CITES, that is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The next organization is International Union for Protection of New Varieties of Plant, that is UPOV, International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants. The aim is it is an intergovernmental organization which aim to provide and promote an effective system of plant variety protection. It was established in 1961. It functions as a grants breeder right. This is an intellectual property right to incentivize the development of new improved plant varieties for agriculture and food security. So it grants and it has a provision of granting breeders right where it incentivizes the development of new varieties of plants, mainly focusing agriculture and food security. There is UPOV convention, that is Union for Protection of New Varieties of Plants convention 1991. It strengthened the breeders right and makes the farmers privilege to save the seeds and optional for the member countries. So this strengthened the farmers privileges. India's status about this organization: India is currently not a member of this organization. That should be noted because it can be asked and it can be given in the option that India is a member, India is a part of this organization. So this information becomes an important that India is not a member of this organization, but is it uses its generic laws. Like India has already enacted the law related to breeders' right, like the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Authority Act, PPVFR. This is a legislations by the government of India to protect the breeders and farmers' rights. It had its headquarter in Geneva, Switzerland. This is all about this organization. Let's get to the next topic: IBAT Alliance, Integrated Biodiversity Assessment Tool. It is a coalition of four organizations, that is Bird International, Conservational International, the International Union of Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, and the United Nations Environmental Programme, that is UNEP. So this is a coalition of four organizations. It is named as Integrated Biodiversity Assessment Tool, which has the coalition of four organizations: Bird International, Conservation International, the IUCN, and UNEP. It was founded in 2008 and mission is to provide data, tools and guidance that helps organizations act on biodiversity related risk. So we need to only understand that the Bird International, Conservation International, IUCN and UNEP are the four organizations which has been coalition to form this integrated biodiversity assessment tool. The tool itself, the word mentioned here, provides the main mission of this organization, that is, it provides the data, tools, and guidance for the biodiversity related risk to other organizations. Next one is National Green Tribunal. National Green Tribunal is a statutory body which aimed at effective and expeditious disposal of cases related to environmental protection and conservation of forest and other natural resources. This is a tribunal of Government of India which was formed in 2010 by the Statutory Act, by the Legislative Act, and that is why the NGT becomes an statutory body which has its objective for effective and expeditious disposal of cases. We already are aware of that Indian judiciaries are overburdened, and because of the cases related to environment, and these cases provides more burden to the judiciary, and we have the less number of judges comparative to the cases, so this tribunal helps as a alternative dispute resolutions. That is why the government came up this resolutions in 2010 as a NGT Act, National Green Tribunal Act, which is aims to educate the environmental cases. It disposed the cases related to environmental protection, conservation of forest and natural resources. The information which becomes important of this tribunal is that how many acts it it has the jurisdiction over. That is the how many acts it can judge upon. This has been asked in previous year question also, that what kind of acts it has its jurisdiction. So we need to know the list of that acts over which it can provide a judgment. The acts are Biological Diversity Act 2002, Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Act 1977, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Public Liability Insurance Act 1991, Environment Protection Act 1986, and Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. This list become itself an important because it has been asked number of times that how many acts that NGT has its jurisdiction. So we need to put more emphasis on these acts because it may ask, it can give the list of the act where it has a jurisdiction or not. So we need to revise it. We need to focus it on these acts especially where NGT have legislation and jurisdiction over it. So this is an Biological Diversity Act 2002, Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1974, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Act 1977, Forest Conservation Act, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, Environmental Protection Act 1986, and Public Liability Insurance Act 1991. It had its headquarters in New Delhi, and it had its other headquarters, or you can say a place of sitting, four places including Bhopal, Pune, Kolkata, and Chennai. The center branch is in New Delhi. It has a power of civil code, and it works under the procedure of Code of Civil Procedure 1908. So the information becomes here important is that this NGT, this tribunal, is not bounded by the procedure of Code of Civil Procedure and or the Indian Evidence Act. Because of that, it has been aimed or made only for the purpose of expeditious disposal of cases. So it is not firmly or not strictly binded by the Code of Civil Procedure, that is CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act. It is guided by the principle of natural justice, and it has mandated to dispose application appeals within the 6 month of its filing. The member, it has the member also, which hold office for 5 years, but shall and they shall not be eligible for reappointment. This information also becomes an important part of it. There is a eligibility criteria for the chairperson, that is the judge of Supreme Court or the Chief Justice of High Court can be a chairman of this tribunal. The appeal, the judgment given by the tribunals, and if one has to appeal against that, the it is orders are not are binding, but the orders are not final in itself. If tribunal gives you any order out of these cases, so the order is binding itself, but this is not a final where the cases can be settled. If one has a problem related to the judgment, they can review, they can go to the Supreme Court within the 90 days of that judgments. So this becomes an important information also. So again, we go through this tribunal because this tribunal is very much important for our examination. The National Green Tribunal, it is statutory body specialized in effective and expeditious disposal of cases related to environment and natural resources. It had its natural jurisdictions over the Biological Diversity Act, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, Water Prevention Control of Pollution Cess Act, Forest Conservation Act, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, Environmental Protection Act 1986, and Public Liability Act, Insurance Act 1991. It had its headquarters in New Delhi, not bounded by the procedure established by law or the Indian Evidence Act. They are mainly guided by the natural justice, principle of natural justice. The 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 disposal of the cases which has been mandated, it should be finally disposed of within the 6 months of its filing. Members hold office for 5 years, and members are not at all eligible for the reappointments. The chairmans can be there is a eligibility for the chairman, like only Supreme Court or the Chief Justice of High Court, judge of Supreme Court or the Chief Justice of High Court can be are eligible to become a chairperson of this tribunal. And the appeal, the decision given by this tribunal is binding, although we can put an appeal in Supreme Court within the 90 days of the judgment. Next topic is about there are the reports and indices related to environment, so it becomes an important. Some of the important reports we'll be discussing here, like Global Forest Resource Assessment GFRA report. Global Forest Resource Assessment 2025, released by FAO. It has been released every 5 years. So, this year's edition, published during the Global Forest Observation Initiative, which has been held in Bali, Indonesia. So, need to know only about the report and the organization which published it, and little bit information like it is biennially, or it is like triennially, annually, or like this Global Forest Resource Assessment. It is published every 5 years by the FAO. There were key highlights in Global Forest Observation Initiative, which was held in Bali. The key highlights is like forest cover, 32% of global land area. We have the forest cover. Nearly half of the world's forests are located in tropics. So these informations, I guess, is not mainly important for the prelims point of view, but these information can be used while writing the mains answers. So only for the prelims point of view, we need to know that the report and the organization which published it, and a little bit of information which is more important. But now in this report, it mentions some of the information which we can use while writing our mains answer. Like Europe has the largest forest area, accounting for 25% of world's total. India's forest extent moved up one rank, that is India has moved to ninth positions in terms of total forest are globally. So there could be an information that India comes in the top 10 of the world forest cover. So this also becomes an important information. Now let's come to the topic climate change. The first heading is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Recently, COP30 was held, which is under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and which was held in Belém, Brazil. This information itself becomes an important. COP30 was held in Belém, Brazil, which coincided with the 10th anniversary of Paris Agreement. The initiatives which has been taken, or the agreements or the conclusions which we came while conference of parties 30th meetings of UNFCCC, which was held in Belém, Brazil. The first point is it was hosted in Amazon region. It is a region of tropical evergreen forest, and a PT. It contains the largest peatland of the globally. So Amazon regions is important, especially for the carbon sequestrations, and very helpful in tackling the climate change. So the summit was held in these regions, which was framed as a COP implementation, COP of truth, and the forest COP, rooted in the spirit of Mutirao, that is inclusion and balance. It concluded with the adoption of Balem package by 195 parties, including agreements on topics such as just transition, adaptation finance, trade, gender, and technology. There was key meeting including the COP30 UNFCCC, CMP20 Conference of Parties serving as meeting of parties to the Kyoto Protocol, CMA7, that is Conference of Parties serving as a meeting of parties to the Paris Agreement. So this is all about this COP30 which took place in Belém, Brazil. Now we need to get the information about UNFCCC also. This becomes an static information. Headquarters lying in Bonn, Germany, emerged from the 1992 Earth Summit that was held in Rio de Janeiro, itself in Brazil, and it was adopted or came into force in 1994. It was one of the three sister convention of Rio Convention. That is, the other two being the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, that is CBD, UNCBD, and other is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, that is UNCCD. So in Earth Summit 1992, which was held at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, there was a three sister convention, that is Rio Convention. UNFCCC is one of the sister. The other two are United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, and other is UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. The first COP meeting of UNFCCC was held in Berlin, Germany 1995. India is a member of this organization, and it often comes with the report NDC synthesis report. There was some outcomes of this conference of party, which was held conference of party 30. So some of the outcomes which becomes an important for our prelims, like Belém mission to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It was COP29 to COP31 Troika, COP19 which was held in UAE, COP30 which is COP29 was held in Azerbaijan, COP30 was held in Brazil, and COP28 held in UAE. So this is a troika of it, which actions oriented platform to foster, enhance ambition and international cooperation across the mitigation, adaptation, and investments. There was Global Implementation Accelerator, that is COP30 and 31 presidencies. It voluntarily initiatives to support countries in implementing the NCD, National Determined Contributions, and National Adaptation Plans, NAPs. National Adaptation Plans Implementation Alliance. UNDP, Italy, Germany, NAP, Global Network, NDC partnership launched as a new PAS plan to accelerate solutions under the COP30 action agenda. It supports the implementation of NAPs, that is National Adaptation Plans, to mobilize public and private investments. The other one is Tropical Forest Forever Facility. So only we need to take the consideration of the information is that ki- that exam is not going to ask you the irrelevant information about this. It can give you the options like Tropical Forest Forever Facility has been discussed, or the initiative of which organization. So these initiatives becomes an important aspects for our prelims examination. That is, Belém mission to 1.5 degrees Celsius is outcome of COP30 that was held in Belém under the UNFCCC. National Adaptation Plan Implementation Alliance. This was also a outcome of it. Tropical Forest Forever Facility (TFFF) is a outcome of COP30, which was endorsed by the Brazil, Indonesia, DRC, that is Democratic Republic of Congo, and China. What is the Tropical Forest Forever Facility? It will establish a $125 billion fund as a tropical forest investment fund that plays a typical forest countries, that is the countries which have the tropical forest cover. It will be, the fund will be utilized for maintaining and expansion of this tropical forests. India joined these initiatives as an observer member, and the trustee and the interim host of this initiative is World Bank. So this information becomes an important. The question can be framed is like Tropical Forest Forever Facility is initiatives of COP30 UNFCC. It has been endorsed by the Brazil, Indonesia, DRC, and China. Under this, $125 billion fund was established to which will be utilized by the countries to maintain and expand their tropical forest cover. India is a part of this organization as an observer member. World Bank acted as a trustee of this initiative. It mandates at least 20% of all payments flow directly to indigenous peoples and local communities, which which takes into consideration the protocols, the conventions of Nagoya's protocol, where it talks about the benefit sharings among all. The other initiatives is like resilience agricultural investment for net zero land degradation. That is REASE. Resilience agriculture investment for net zero land degradation. It was adopted by Brazil and 10 partner nations, hosted by Brazil under the FAO FAST partnership. It was based on Green Way and Economic Invest in Brazil. It has been coordinated by the Food and Agricultural Organizations. The aim of this initiative is to restore 3 million hectares of degraded farmland. The other initiatives are like scaling JREAT coalition, that is jurisdictional reducing emission for from deforestation and forest degradation. That is reduction of emission from deforestation and forest degradation. The aim is to mobilize 3 to 6 billion per year by 2030 to halt and reverse tropical deforestation. There is some other initiatives related to finance and economy, that is Baku to Belem roadmap, that will to invest $1.3 trillion per year by 2035 to mobilize a new collective quantified goal. This is to tackle the effects of climate change. There is initiatives like tripling of adaptation finances, that we need to triple how we invest nowadays to tackle the climate finances. That is It suggests that we should be spending $300 billion per year as a climate finance to tackle the climate change. There was other initiatives like Baku Adaptation Roadmap, FINI fostering investable national implementations. It supported by the International American Development Bank and Green Climate Fund (GCF). It it has aim of making national adaptation rules and NAPs, and it is also project to pipeline 1 trillion US dollar as an investment mechanism. There are open coalition on compliance carbon market. It is to harmonize the carbon pricing and integrity standard. Balam declaration for green industrializations, which is to accelerate decarbonization of heavy emitting industries. Energy related initiatives like plan to accelerate expansion and resilience power grids. Green grid initiative, the plan to accelerate coal transition pact powering past coal alliances. Balam Forex pledge on sustainable fuels, that is International Energy Agency will track the progress. It aims to quadruple the use of sustainable fuels like hydrogen, biofuels, e-fuels by 2035. There is Bellam Health Actions, world's first international climate adaptation plan dedicated to health. It will be 300 million initial funding to build a climate resilient health sector, especially in global south. Bellam Gender Action Plan, designated to implement Lima work program on gender. There is a 2030 strategy which will enable the climate vulnerable nation to build early warning systems. So this is all about the articles. Rest of the articles we'll be discussing in the next video. Thank you for watching.